My name is Daniel Cross, and until a year ago, I was a senior analyst at the United States Department of Energy. My job was to ensure our national power grids were safe from cyber attacks. It wasn't glamorous, and I wasn't on television giving interviews, but I knew that behind the scenes, the work I did helped keep millions of homes lit and warm. I had spent over a decade in that gray building on Constitution Avenue. I knew the hallways better than my own apartment. I believed in service, in protecting people even if they never knew my name. It all started with a flagged vulnerability in a new algorithm used by private contractors managing our national infrastructure. I was doing routine review work when I noticed something odd, a line of code that allowed backdoor access to the grid. It looked deliberate. I flagged it immediately, and within hours, I was called into a meeting with my boss, Deputy Director Julian Morgan. He was calm, unbothered, told me to let it go and that the matter would be handled through other channels. That's when alarm bells rang. Julian had always been measured, but never dismissive. I went back to my desk and did the unthinkable. I started digging, quietly, carefully. I cross-referenced project files, emails, timestamps. It didn't take long before I found out that the contractor who submitted the algorithm, a firm called Veritech Solutions, had just received a $200 million extension, and it was pushed through just 2 days after the code was added. I didn't sleep that night. I made an anonymous report to the Office of Inspector General and hoped that someone outside our chain of command would investigate. For a while, things seemed normal, too normal. Then my badge stopped working. At first, I thought it was a system glitch. Happens all the time in government buildings, but when I got to the security desk, they told me my clearance had been suspended, pending an audit. I was escorted upstairs by 2 men in suits who didn't give me their names. They brought me to a small, windowless room and handed me a file. Inside were documents, bank records, emails, receipts, all of them supposedly mine. All of them painting the picture of a man who had been taking bribes from foreign interests in exchange for critical infrastructure data. There were even passport stamps showing international travel I had never taken. It was a trap, and I walked right into it. My laptop was confiscated. My government phone wiped. I was placed on administrative leave without pay, pending investigation. The moment I walked out of that building, I knew I had become a scapegoat. And the worst part? Nobody spoke to me. My co-workers avoided me like I was radioactive. Friends who used to grab coffee with me disappeared. Even my supervisor, the one I had once defended when he was under scrutiny, didn't return my calls. But I wasn't ready to be buried. The first week after I was suspended was a blur, part shame, part disbelief. My inbox was locked, my security credentials revoked. News hadn't broken yet, but I could feel the silence closing in like a vice. I was alone. But if they thought they could erase me, they didn't know me at all. I still had one card left to play, a personal backup drive I kept for emergencies. Paranoia? Maybe, but I had been working in national security too long not to take precautions. I plugged it into my private laptop and started digging through my own saved audit logs, version histories, and metadata from weeks of work. The deeper I looked, the clearer it became. Someone had rewritten parts of the code under my name, lines I never touched. Whoever did this had access to internal servers and administrator clearance. That narrowed the list considerably. Only a few people had that level of access, and one of them was Deputy Director Julian Morgan. I needed help, someone outside the building, but inside the system. That's when I reached out to an old contact, Tessa Vale, an investigative journalist I'd met during a cybersecurity summit years ago. She was relentless, sharp, and had a reputation for bringing down people in high places. I told her everything, showed her the doctored files, the dates, the anomaly in the timestamped logs. She didn't blink. By the next morning, she was on a plane to D.C. We met in a tiny diner off Rhode Island Avenue. She looked the same, worn leather bag, tablet always glowing. She slid me a burner phone and said, "If you're right, this is going to get dangerous, fast." Over the next week, we worked in total secrecy. She had contacts in cybersecurity firms and ex-government watchdogs who reviewed the data I had. One of them, a forensic analyst named Raj, confirmed that the alterations were artificial, injected remotely, and traced the digital signature to an IP block used exclusively inside the Department of Energy's secure VPN. In other words, an inside job. Then, just as we were preparing to go public, Tessa got a message. It was a warning: stop now, or we publish everything we have on you. Tessa didn't scare easy, but when she showed me the threat, screenshots from her private life, Manipulated images meant to ruin her. I realized we were playing with people who had more to hide than just a corrupt software deal. I made the decision, I'd go public myself. Using the burner phone, I recorded a full video, 12 minutes, laying out the entire scheme. I showed the original code, the manipulated version, the timeline, the suspicious contract. I named names. I uploaded it to an encrypted server with a dead man's switch. Then, I sent the link to every news outlet I could find, from small bloggers to international papers. I didn't know who'd listen, I just knew I had to make noise. 2 days later, it exploded. DOE analyst exposes multi-million-dollar cover-up. Whistleblower claims government contractor risked national security. Shadow deal within the grid, real or manufactured? I was all over the internet. Naturally, the department denied everything, called it a fabrication by a disgruntled former employee, but the evidence was too detailed. And then, the break I never expected, a second whistleblower came forward. A systems engineer at Veritech who had also seen irregularities, but was too afraid to speak. My video gave him the courage. Suddenly, it wasn't just me. Investigations were launched. Julian Morgan was placed on indefinite leave. Veritech's contract was suspended. And me? Well, officially, I'm still under review. But now I get interview requests instead of subpoenas. Tessa's piece ran front page in a national magazine, and while I still don't have my badge back, I've got something better, the truth, and proof I never backed down. It cost me my career, my peace, maybe even my future in government, but I sleep at night knowing I didn't look away, and sometimes, that has to be enough.